What do you do when the person you love most builds a celebration that excludes you? I stood in our living room, the faint hum of laughter and clinking glasses spilling through the walls from the dining room next door. My wife, Clara, had spent weeks planning her 35th birthday dinner, and the house was alive with the voices of friends, family, and colleagues. I should have been there, at her side, raising a glass to her light. Instead, I was here alone, holding an invitation that wasn't mine. It had arrived in the mail that morning, addressed to our neighbor, Mrs. Ellison, with a handwritten note from Clara. Join us for my birthday dinner. Bring your joy, but please don't mention Daniel. My name, scratched out of her night like an afterthought. Clara and I had been married for 10 years, each one a tapestry of small victories and quiet compromises. She was the spark-vibrant, quick-witted, the kind of woman who could make a stranger feel like family in minutes. I was the steady one, content to anchor her dreams while she lit up the world. But lately, the threads of our tapestry had started to fray. She'd been distant, her laughter less frequent, her eyes avoiding mine. I thought it was stress her promotion at the law firm, the endless late nights. I told myself we'd find our rhythm again. I never imagined she'd orchestrate a night like this. The invitation burned in my hand as I paced the living room. The dining room glowed through the glass door, a warm haze of candlelight and chatter. I could see her silhouette, her auburn hair catching the light as she moved between guests, her laughter ringing like a bell. I wanted to barge in, to demand answers, but something held me back. Maybe it was the fear of what I'd hear. Instead, I sank into the armchair, the one she'd picked out when we first moved in, and let the weight of the evening settle over me. The doorbell rang, sharp and unexpected. I hesitated, then opened it to find Mrs. Ellison, our elderly neighbor, clutching her own invitation. Her eyes softened when she saw me. "Daniel," she said, her voice trembling with something like pity. "I wasn't sure you'd be here." She handed me a small, folded note, her fingers lingering as if passing a fragile relic. "Clara asked me to give you this. She said you'd understand after you read it." I unfolded the note, my hands unsteady. Clara's handwriting, usually so precise, was rushed, almost frantic. "Daniel, I'm sorry. I needed tonight to remember who I am without you. Please don't come in. I'll explain later." My chest tightened. Without me? What did that mean? I looked at Mrs. Ellison, searching for clarity, but she only shook her head and shuffled toward the dining room, leaving me with the note and a growing knot of dread. I couldn't stay in the house any longer. The air felt thick, suffocating. I grabbed my coat and slipped out the back door, the cool night air hitting me like a slap. The street was quiet, save for the distant hum of the party. I walked aimlessly, the note crumpled in my pocket, my mind replaying every moment of the past year. Had I missed something? Had I been so caught up in my own routine-y job at the library, my quiet evenings with a book that I'd failed to see her slipping away? That's when I saw him. A man leaning against a lamppost at the end of the street, his face half hidden in shadow. He was tall, wiry, with a scarf draped loosely around his neck. He didn't belong here, not in our quiet suburb, not at this hour. As I approached, he straightened, his eyes locking onto mine. "Daniel?" he asked, his voice low, almost cautious. I froze. How did he know my name? "I'm Ethan," he said, stepping into the light. His face was sharp, angular, with a nervous energy that made me uneasy. Clara's brother. My stomach dropped. Clara didn't have a brother. She'd grown up an only child, her parents gone years ago. I'd met her entire family or cousins, her aunts. "No, Ethan, you're lying," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. He didn't flinch. Instead, he pulled out a photo, worn at the edges, and handed it to me. It showed a younger Clara, maybe 16, laughing beside a boy who looked just like him. The resemblance was undeniable. "She never told you about me," he said. Not a question, but a fact. "She cut me out of her life years ago, after I messed up. Addiction, bad choices. I hurt her, Daniel. I hurt her bad." His voice cracked, and for the first time I saw the weight he carried. "She's been trying to forgive me, but it's hard. Tonight, she invited me to her dinner, but she didn't want you there. Not because of you, because of me. She's ashamed, I think, of what I did, of who I was." The twist hit me like a wave. Clara, my Clara, had a past she'd buried so deep even I couldn't reach it. Ethan kept talking, his words spilling out like a confession. He'd been in and out of rehab trying to rebuild, and Clara had only recently let him back in. Tonight was a test, a step toward healing, but she wasn't ready to share it with me. Not yet. "She loves you," Ethan said, his eyes meeting mine. "But she's scared. Scared you'll see her differently if you know the whole story." I didn't know what to feel: anger, relief, betrayal, or something softer like hope. I thanked Ethan, my voice barely above a whisper, and turned back toward the house. The party was still alive, the laughter louder now, but it felt different. Less like a wall keeping me out, and more like a bridge Clara was trying to cross. When I got home, the dining room was empty, the guests gone. Clara sat at the table, a single candle flickering before her. She looked up, her eyes red-rimmed, and for a moment, we just stared at each other. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know how to tell you." She gestured to the chair across from her, and I sat, the distance between us feeling both vast and fragile. She told me everything. About Ethan, her older brother, who'd spiraled into addiction when she was a teenager. How his choices had torn their family apart. How she blamed herself for not saving him. She'd built a new life, one where the pain of her past couldn't touch her. But when Ethan reached out last year, sober and seeking forgiveness, she couldn't say no. Tonight was her way of facing that past, surrounded by people who knew her now, not then. But Mesh wasn't ready for me to see that part of her. Not because she didn't trust me, but because she was still learning to trust herself. "I thought if you knew," she said, her voice breaking, "you'd think I was broken too." I reached for her hand, my own trembling. "Clara," I said, "I love you because of who you are, not in spite of it. You don't have to hide from me." Her fingers tightened around mine, and for the first time in weeks, I saw the spark in her eyes flicker back to life. We sat there until the candle burned out, talking, crying, rebuilding. The dinner, the note, the exclusion, it wasn't about pushing me away. It was about Clara finding her way back to herself, and now, to me, I realized then that love isn't just about the moments you share. It's about the ones you wait through, the ones where you stand in the dark, trusting the light will come. The next morning, Ethan came by. He was nervous, but Clara introduced us properly, her hand in mine. We didn't have all the answers, but we had a start. And as I looked at her, I knew one thing for certain. No matter how many secrets she'd carried, I'd carry them with her now. Because that's what love does, it stays, even when it's left out.